Today's video is going to be probably one of the most important videos that I've ever done in the history of my YouTube channel. Okay, I'm going to talk about how brands are able to consistently, and consistently is the key word, consistently scale to $50,000 days or more with a bulletproof creative process. I'm going to bring you through the entire creative process from A to Z. I have a lot to speak about over here, as you can see, a bunch of different things, new things that I haven't really spoken about too much within the channel. And before we get going to the channel, just so you know that I'm qualified to speak about the topic, this is just one of our own clients that we typically are managing. They're doing around $50,000 per day. That's what they did yesterday alone, okay? Now that we got the proof out of the way, let's jump right into the video. Please stick until the end. I'm going to talk about really, really important steps. There's going to be 4 or 5 steps. The final steps are the most important. I'm not saying this to retain viewership or whatever. I really mean it. They are the most important step. So make sure to stick until the end. Step number 1, creative research. I'm going to just jump right in. I'm going to show you how I do creative research in the next couple of minutes. And listen clearly because this is very effective, okay? So there's 2 layers to research, or 2 things that we need. We want to do research on competitors and research on brands that have a shared audience, okay? Why do we want to do research on competitors? Well, I don't really need to explain that because, if a direct competitor is killing it with an offer, a landing page, a structure, a creative concept, whatever it is, specifically on the creative side, as we say in step 1, we want to be able to learn from it, number 1, and maybe implement it in our own way. Second reason why we want to do research on brands that are not selling the same, product, but just have a shared audience, is because whenever we go and navigate, let's just say these are just some creatives from our, indirect competitor that has a different audience. If it's working for them and a specific concept is new to the market, right, then we can get that concept and implement it in our own way with the right angles, the right messaging, of course, but for our industry. So it's less saturated. So let me just show you what I do here is that I just honestly go over here on Atria. I use Atria. It's an amazing tool because this tool allows me to find brands. So let's just say I'm selling an under eye bag cream or whatever you want to call it. And so I would look for competitors, or at least, this is what I start with. And then to validate that the ads are actually spending, or to actually understand what types of ads are winners, then I just, find a brand, let's say Lumen. I go over here and this is for another company. Let me just go back. I go over here and click on advertiser name, Lumen. At least I start with this filter. And then I just go on and take a look at what is happening with their ads. You see, these are all viral, very, very viral ads. And I take a look at what's actually working for them and what has been launched in the most recent period. I like to do the last 3 to 6 months. The other thing that I said, remember indirect competitors. When I think about indirect competitors, I basically ask a question. What does my product solve, and how do I sell my product? My product, for example, can be sold with before and after, no under eye cream, and then you use the cream and you don't have bags anymore. So what other, niches can we explore? Probably skincare, right? Or, weight loss, right? Let me just do skincare. And from here, we can probably find, Sandy and Sky, Truly Beauty. They're absolutely killing it. And we can take inspiration from those concepts, okay? So this is pillar number 1. Really, really important. You can buy an Atria, you can buy AdSpy, and you basically go ahead and find viral winning creative concepts that you can take advantage on direct competitors and indirect competitors, even if they're not competitors, shared audiences, right? Okay, so this is step number 1, really important. Step number 2, you're gonna roll your eyes and it's boring, but I have to spend 1 or 2 minutes talking about this, and then we can get into the sexier, more interesting topics as we move on. Okay, customer research, really important. You understand what that means. The number 1 priority is the customer. We wanna be able to understand everything there is about the customer. I've shown this diagram before. We wanna go on Reddit, on TikTok, on Amazon, on Facebook groups, read comments, go and find, even on this side, if we're taking a look at this ad, for example, that's going completely viral, right? One other thing that is part of the customer research is read through the comments of your best indirect or direct competitors, or also your own ads, and read through the comments of their most viral ads. That is literally one way to have a better understanding what people want, what they like, dislike. There's 1,200 comments, right? And you can filter by all comments, right? And then you can pretty much have an understanding what people react to, what they like, what their objections, right? I don't see any here, but in some cases, they're some comments have 200 likes or even more, right? And so you obviously, that is an indication that people resonate with that, right? And so you can take inspiration from all of these comments, and this is part of the research. You can do the same thing with TikTok, under eye bags, right? You can do research on what they're saying in the comments. So we take a look at this. Is a super viral video. It had 1 million not views, but likes. So 144,000 saves, 12,000 comments. And look, this comment alone had 161,000 likes, 93,000 likes, one comment, not one video, one comment. And so you can basically, this is a gold mine to just take a look at what people are doing. Okay, so that's what we do. Then we try to understand what the positives, the negatives are, the frustrations, the tonality, the skepticism. We put everything into a document. And then of course we want to understand these things. How does your ideal customer avatar talk? What is happening in their life right now? Who do they want to become? People that have under-eye bags want to become people that don't have under-eye bags, right? What is their aspiration, their motivations? How do they want to feel internally, right? Psychologically. And what do they say they want that maybe they're not thinking, right? Which is completely different. And so what we like to do is that we have like a document called Holy Creative Document, and this is where we put all of their research, customer research, which includes, TikTok research, Reddit research, avatar research, Amazon review mining, everything, so that we basically have a good understanding of what is actually working. You see, we highlight comments, we just go, deeper into the rabbit hole of customer research. Okay, so this is super, super important. Hopefully you understand these two things. Number one, right, creative research. Number two, customer research. And now comes the magic, and this is where we're gonna dive deeper into some other things. Step number three is creating an hypothesis. It's creative hypothesis and creative production, right? Once you gather these two things, right, creative research and customer research, you can start hypothesizing what the hell I want to do as a creative test. So this is where the command center comes in play, right? So these are like videos, right? These are all concepts that we want to launch. Let's just say, I did the research on the customer, I did the research on the creative, and I come up with 1, 2, 3, let's just say these 3 concepts. I add them into this command center. How do I add them? Well, first of all, we want to each row is like a creative concept that we want to test on the ad account. So each concept would be like 3, 4, 5 different creatives, which has a specific marketing angle. So we would basically, within this concept, we would go after and fill up the marketing angle, right? The creative concept type, whether it's top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, the avatar that we're targeting, all these things. And at the same time, this is the type of hypothesis that we want to test. Why are we putting this test in action? Like, we have to give reasons to why we are doing a creative in the first place, or else you're pretty much shooting in the dark. Like, why are we deciding that we want to do this test, right? And so this is the first pillar, creating the hypothesis. And I have a perfect example of some things later, so stick until the end. But the hypothesis, it could be, I'm deciding to test this concept because it went viral for a competitor, and I also read that this comment went viral on this, thread, and I feel like it would be a perfect match. That is a perfect hypothesis and why something could work, right? Next thing is that you create a brief. Now, this is really, really important. Once you have an idea of the concept, you have your creative strategist or yourself or somebody on your team, ideally a creative strategist, actually go and create a brief, right? A brief is basically this information you need to give, and this is a brief to the editor or the creative team, the graphic designers or the editors. So you need to have an avatar, an angle, right? A desire, top of funnel, minimal. It's basically what I just spoke about over here, all of these columns. They would just, you do them, you add them over here because it gives you context and you know what the status is, to be approved or, ideas, right? But then you also put it you copy and paste it on the brief so that your editors know exactly where to find the information, okay? One other thing that we started to implement right now, and it's really, I feel like it's really, really going to work well. It's something that we didn't test yet. We're in the process of testing it, but I know that it's going to work very well, is that we have editor rules. And so we're implementing frameworks where each editor, before giving us a video based on the script, on the brief, they need to check all of these boxes. Is the hook fine? Yes. Are the captions fine? Are the visuals fine? Is the voiceover more consistent in tone, pacing, whatever? Yes. They basically need to check all of these check boxes. I'm not going to do it right now. Or else we will not review the video, and it will just remain there until and it's on them at that point. And if they don't do this, they should. Let me just not tell you what would happen, but obviously, they would get fired, because if they don't follow our instructions and they're not following these brief instructions, it would just really, hurt our clients and all the brands that we work with, right? So they have to do this. If they don't uncheck a box, right, they need to tell us why that was not unchecked. For example, rule number 10 was not unchecked because it would not be respecting the brief that the creative strategist gave me. For example, if part of, let's just say the hook needs to be visually impactful, and for example, the reference video is that is like a winning video, does not have an impactful hook, then the editor would not check this up, and it would just say, hey, I didn't do number 1, I didn't check box number 1 because the brief told me to do that, okay? So this allows revisions to be limited, and it allows quality to be high, okay? This is what a brief should look like, and then you of course have, scenes, and this is just a standard brief, the voiceover, the text overlay, and some notes for the editor. Okay, hopefully this was valuable. Next step is that you receive the final video from the editor, and then you request revisions. We're doing revisions on frame.io moving forward, and it's a great tool just to leave comments and do revisions. Let me know if you have any questions about this, but the creative hypothesis needs to be done before you get into production, right? Get an hypothesis going, and I'll explain why that is important later. Next step, and the most important, is learnings. Okay, this is the step, as I say here, where we take our time and try to understand why certain ads are working and certain ads are failing. If we don't do this within our organization, we pretty much are hoping that something sticks on the wall. So what we want to do is that we want to compare failed ads, and we want to compare them with winning ads, and then we want to just mix and match and compare as much as we can to gather as much data. So making what do I say here? Make conclusions based on the numbers and take notes on the key observations as per why the ad failed or it won. And this is the learning section that I was showing you over here, right? Once you check in the hypothesis, after 7 to 14 days, you record results. It got spent, it didn't get spent, and stuff like that. And then you have learnings. I'm going to talk about learnings in just a second, just so you have a perfect example of what a complete learning is. Okay. And so this gets filled up before you start the test, and this is basically after 7 to 14 days, either when you decide to leave it on, the test, the creative, the concept, right? Or you decide to shut it off. You write the learnings. Really, really, really important. Really basic, actually, but really important. This is a perfect example. I'm going to do two examples: a winning video and a losing video. And I'm going to talk about the actual briefs. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit over here. So this would be the winning video. Results: it took the top 3 spender, right? The ROAS was 1.9, which is great, at least for this scenario. And it was consistent in results, meaning that it continued to spend X amount, top 3 spender, right? The CTR was consistent, the ROAS was consistent, everything is consistent. What are some learnings, right? And this is an example, right? I'm not saying these are the types of learnings you should do exactly, but you can take inspo from this. The hook rate was, the hook rate was 57%. And I'm not sure what I wrote here. That was very strong. It means that it's a very strong hook. It showed the product and the end result in the hook, right? The hook showed the product and the end result, basically kind of like this. The end result and the product over here. Once again, I'm just taking inspiration on this example so you understand, and you can do this with your own brand. And it's also very visually impactful. So these are just some observations on the hook, which was 57%. We have visual impactful, and it showed the product and the result within the hook. So this is an observation. It's a learning. Next thing, right, is CTR was above 1.7%, which is good compared to all of our other ads, right? And this, made me think, and this is hypothesizing, this is, once again, it's an example. It made me think that the girlfriend angle maybe made the ad resonate on a deeper level with the audience, therefore giving us, instead of a 1% click-through rate, which was maybe the average, it gave us a 1.7%. So I'm making observations, once again, I'm making learnings of a potential, not a potential, of a winning ad, literally, right? And so hold rate was 30%, definitely room for improvement on the storyline. Ideally, we want to, get the hold rate to like 40, 50%. And then maybe we can test, adding a storyline within the video to increase retention. Stories sell, right? Something that you maybe never tested. Could be an idea to get this from 30 to 40%, 30 to 50%. You get the point. Once again, I'm applying learnings and hypotheses for my next test. And then I just have like general observations. The angle was a girlfriend angle, right? The hook was very impactful visually. The pace of the video was around 3 seconds per frame, right? In some cases, we have some clients that just by changing the frame of the video, right, making it slower for like, assuming they target 50, 60-year-olds, instead of making it super fast-paced, it can drastically improve results. So we want to make observations on the entire video. What angle did we use? What was the hook like? Was it impactful visually? Was it not? Was it a static hook? Was it a visual kind of like motion hook? Whatever it was. What was the pacing? We also showed a lot of proof that the product works by having girls smell boys and smile. So this is a component, an observation that we made on the ad. And so the next step would be, iterate with a different hook, but still high impact, right? Maybe just testing a different hook. This is just an example. There's a billion other iterations that you can do to make this better, or iterate on the concept itself. Okay, let me just do an example of a loser. Okay, this is really, really important. Losing ad, total spend $200 within 7 days, right? As a key performance indicator, if it spends over $1,000 and it keeps on spending, we would consider that a small winner, but still within the winning circle. It really depends on scale in your account. If you're spending, 10 grand a day or like $200 a day, of course, your target's going to be a bit different. But if you're starting to spend like $3, $4, $5,000 per day or more, you can consider like a winner something that is like 700, 800, $1,000 in spend, right? Especially if it's within like 7 to 12 to 14 days, okay? And then the ROAS was like 2.5, so healthy ROAS, but it didn't spend a lot, and so we shut it down. Learnings. The hook, as an example, was only 25%. So if the hook was actually 25%, we want to understand how we can try to improve this hook. Because then what happens is that most people get losing ads. Not most people, everyone in the world, including the 8, 9-figure brands, they get more losers than winners. It's part of the process, right? If you get like a 30% hit rate, which is very, very good. Hit rate means that 30% of your ads are doing very, very good and they're scaling. 30% is not 100%. 30% is not 70%. So even if you have 30% of ads that win, you have 70% of ads that lose. So the worst thing that you can do is like avoid doing learnings for losing ads, right? And so this is an example. The hook definitely could have been, higher impact. It's a bit boring and better visuals next time. So these are just some learnings. The CTR was above 1.3, which is decent. The girlfriend angle seems to resonate better than others. So what I'm saying here is that these two girlfriend angles were both applied, and both gave above average, KPI on the CTR, which was maybe 1% on the ad account, and now we're getting 1.3%, right? Hold rate was 35%, definitely room for improvement, but not too bad. And then general observations, once again, the girlfriend angle was used, the hook was boring, pace of the video was a bit fast-paced, right, which was maybe not congruent to like what our audience resonates with. And then this was a short-form video, less than 60 seconds, which is not the same as our winner, which is 4 minutes long, maybe a VSL, or who knows, right? At the end of the day, it's not only about format, it's also about like framing and scripts, right? So I also would want to maybe do a hypothesis on the scripts. Next steps, we should try to create a better hook as a next step. If we bring that to 50% hook, it could get spent as there is some decent traction, meaning that it got some spend, $200 with a good ROAS, but it just did not have the chance to scale, maybe because the hook was only 25%. So if we can really increase that and make it better, and we tell Facebook that, people are engaging with their ad in the first 5 seconds or 3 seconds, then maybe we have a shot, okay? Overall, these are the steps. And step number 5, which is the last one, is iterate based on your learnings, right? Once you have your learnings, right, you do your hypothesis, you do your test, you wait 7 to 14 days, and then you analyze the results and the learnings. Once you do, then you make your next tests, okay? This is how it should work. And so it should be a cycle where you start with research, you start doing on customer, and also on the creative stuff. You put down your hypotheses, right? And then you apply learnings after the test is over, and then you apply next steps, meaning the iteration aspect. Iteration, when I say iteration, yes, I understand iterations means like, maybe scaling a winning ad, but I also mean iteration. I mean iterating on what didn't work as well. That's also a form of iteration, right? Changing aspects to try to make a video work, like the example that I shared over here, right? This one over here. So this is pretty much it, guys. The whole goal of this process is to get your hit rate from like below 3%, right, to like 15 to 30%, so that then you can, after you can focus on doing more volume. Because one thing that I also spoke about within my community, by the way, is that I have a member in my community that really likes to do volume, but then I also reminded them that volume, unless you have like a decent hit rate, doesn't actually make sense. Because what happens when you do a lot of volume and you maybe make it work a bit, what happens when you add team members and creative strategists? They probably won't be able to like do that type of volume, because it takes a lot of effort to do volume, number one, but it's also very demotivating to see that all of your ads are basically failing except 1 out of 100. Like literally, it's not efficient. So we want to have the efficiency first. We want to go from low hit rate to like 15-30% hit rate if possible. We increase our hit rate, and then through this process, right, and then we apply a process where we can start scaling with more volume, and we can go from like 5 to 7 concepts a week. Once we get the hit rate, we can go to 15, and then we can go to 20 and 30, and that's how also you can scale. I've seen a lot of companies get to over $1 million a month just by testing, 5 to 7 concepts a week, but well-researched ones, and that worked very, very well. And so it's just a matter of that process over there. Okay, that is it for this video. I know that I ranted a lot about these things. Let me know if you have any questions about this. You can get this sheet down below. As you can see, there's other people getting it already. I think it's a third link or second link, or maybe fourth. I forgot what link it is on the description. But that is it for this video. If you are a brand doing at least $100,000 a month and you want to explore the opportunity of working with us, right? Especially getting into Q1. We're opening some slots for maybe December. I'll have to see, but definitely we take on calls and explore the opportunity. Okay, that is it for this video, and see you in the next one. Bye.